Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We are back for episode number 9 of Marvel Yap. We're going to be going over the OTA predictions. We're going to be looking over our leagues, Agent Venom. We're also going to be looking at Misery. Of course, a little bit of Scream things, too. And then we got a couple of sleeper decks for you guys to check out. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, we are joined with the hostest with the mostest, notmydance. How are we doing, Dance? It is good to see you, brother.
The Dance. Doing good. I'm doing good today. I've got what is it? I've been enjoying Snap actually. I feel like last week I was definitely doing a whole lot less, but this week it's definitely been a lot more of it, and I've been really liking that. I've been playing a little bit more, and even though I will say it feels like hell is still in a lot of places, it still feels like you have a lot of avenues, a lot of options, and I've been able to play some stuff that I haven't played in a while. And it's been cool. How's your snapping been?
I feel like it's been a fun week. I mean, what has kind of sunk for me is I play a lot of Phoenix Force, and Scream has been everywhere. So it's kind of been like really rough to get like my combos going with Phoenix Force. So I've been playing some other like list, but what I like about that is like with Agent Venom, it's really opened up a brand new avenue for all sorts of different type of cards, mid-range or even top-end cards, which we'll talk about later on in the Yap, of course. But it's been fun. I hit Infinite day one. Power wasn't really working, and my Wi-Fi was crazy, so I didn't really get to stream it, but we hit it off-stream day one. You also hit Infinite day one, right?
I did. I've consistently been trying. I've been streaming, trying to hit Infinite day one. And then I get to like 98, 97, and I just have to stop because it's just not working on stream. Then I lay down in bed and keep playing for another hour or two, and then I hit it. So it does that. It's just a lot easier. It changes it up a bit where you can just sit down and just not have to focus on like. It's weird, right? Because when you play the game at home and you're playing just on your toilet, you're playing in your bed, wherever you're just chilling out, you don't have to focus on that stuff. But I feel like there's a situation where sometimes when you're streaming it, you're talking, you're doing other things, and as like I'll be yapping and I won't be making the right plays at all, and I look at it like, oh no, if I just actually count and I see that my numbers never win, I don't. Yeah, it happens very often. It happens very, very often. But it's been overall, it's just been good. It's been a fun climb to Infinite. We got this new card back, by the way, as well, which is a fun little bit. But do you want to? What are we talking about other than this cool card back, us hitting Infinite? Well, what we got talking about today?
So we are going to be going over sleeper decks. We each are going to give 3 to 4 decks that we think might be flying under the radar right now, opposed to some of these meta decks you're seeing. We're also going to be talking about Misery, which is the brand new card coming out today as the time that this video releases. We're going to talk about Agent Venom. We're going to talk about Scream. We're going to do some OTA predictions for the OTA on Thursday, as well as go over an answered question that was asked to the team recently, going into potentially what might happen with the OTA. And then we're going to be talking about leagues, because leagues will be back on Friday. This all is also because this is the year 2 anniversary of Marvel Snap, which is why we do have this card back on stream.
Yeah. So have you been playing since the anniversary? Like, when did you start playing? I feel like we talked about this before, but I don't remember.
I think I started playing a couple weeks after Snap first came out. It was still the Miles Morales season, but it was right before they introduced Series 4 and Series 5 cards.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. So so that's a pretty fair place to start. Now, I started like right when Miles was the first season, right? He was the first season? Yeah, I started playing during then. I think I played like a week or so. Started playing basically very soon after the actual public launch occurred. But it was a lot of fun. I actually remember I was in Florida, and y'all had, which by the way, you're getting another hurricane apparently. Please stay safe. That's going to be atrocious.
It's not by me, fortunately.
It's not by you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. I remember I went out there a couple years ago, and it was like a month, maybe a month is incorrect. I don't know, but it was recently enough after a hurricane. And one of the things you're supposed to do apparently is like you don't drink the water out there.
Yes.
After that. Yeah, I'm from Colorado. I don't deal with that. The water is, we get the mountain water, all right? Our water is fresh to death. I can drink from the bathtub and I'd be fine. It's all fresh, clean everywhere. Yeah, I didn't do that, and was sick in bed for a few days, throwing up. It was atrocious. Spare fear of the details. But I remember I just sat there and I was so miserable. And I saw my buddies in one of my Discords I was in talking about this new game that they were playing. I'm like, I can't do anything. I'm on vacation. My in-laws are sick in another bedroom. My wife and her brother are outside in the pool. I think I'm just gonna go play this new game. And I just sat there and played it for a while being sick, and it was just it was a really fun introduction. So it's really cool to realize, like, it's been 2 years. That's like 700 days. So many. I wish they have the monthly recap they give you. I don't know if they're gonna do it this month, during this day, but I would love it if during this anniversary event they said like fun stats, like how many times you've snapped in general, or maybe how many times the player base has
recap.
A yearly recap, right? Where like how many times has everyone snapped? How many times has a card been split? How many cubes have been won? All of this stuff, like just a bunch of really cool small little things like that. I feel like that'd be really fun and interesting. But it's what is it? I don't know. Do you have any this is totally off topic of what we said we were going to talk about. Do you have any like initial memories of Marvel Snap like that?
So I started playing Marvel Snap when we also were coming down to Florida. It's when I started playing like consistently. We were on a trip to see Amber's family. And, you know, we're just all sitting around on the couch watching TV. And I'm like, oh, this Marvel game's fun. I love Marvel. And I played this game on my phone for hours and hours and hours. Like, oh, this is really good. Like, you know, I haven't played a card game like ever. And so it literally, I was like, wait, it's Marvel. It's a card game. It's strategy. I'm like, this is really fun. And like, it's, of course, you're in pool 1, you're in pool 2. So you're like, I don't have all these cards. I see Venom on the cover. I see Doctor Doom on the cover. I'm like, when am I going to get these cards? And this is before they added, you know, like at least 50 to 100 new cards since then. So like it really got me into the game, and then eventually into streaming multiple months later. But this game was fun. And then the introduction of Series 4, Series 5 cards, it was like, am I going to get one in this spotlight here? Am I going to get it in this next one? I know it's like a 0.01% chance for me to get this Series 5 card, but maybe one day I'll snag one. So it was cool being able to achieve them that way before the Spotlight Keys, even though it was much harder to get them but prior to Spotlight Keys.
Yeah, that's fair. I think also, maybe it's better to talk about next week, but I think, because next week is going to be the, that's going to be the Agony event, right? With High Voltage? Is that what that is? Or is that? I think Agony is the 300th card added to Marvel Snap.
Really?
Right, I'm looking at the untapped data right now, and it says out of 290, it says it's currently showing 297 cards.
Okay.
So we have Misery coming out today.
Yep.
Next week we have Scorn, and because there are going to be people having to like progress through High Voltage to unlock Agony. Agony will then be after that, if I'm not mistaken.
And a Series 4 card, by the way.
It is a Series 4 card. I don't know if we talked about that, but that's really cool. So yeah. 300 cards we're going to be at in 2 years of Marvel Snap. That's just, it's so cool. It's so cool to see where we've come and to where we are right now. Black Panther still isn't a good card. Miles Morales still lacks enough like really cohesive points to really work out well. But don't worry. I think the first season pass card, Nick Fury, is definitely still great. So we're doing great. We're
doing great. All the cards are maintaining the value when they first came out. There's no regrets in buying any of these cards at all, ever. Whether you get it from Spotlights
I love
or
Zabu.
tokens. Yeah, Zabu, you know, Loki, skipping Hydra Bob, you know, no.
Sarcasms aside, do you want to maybe talk about the sleeper decks that we're talking about here, right?
So
these are the decks, right, that are... Sorry, you go ahead.
No. Sans was saying, these are the decks, right? And we pass it off to Dance again.
No, yeah. So these are the decks that Tucker will tell you about. Why these are sleeper decks.
So like right here, we're on Untapped. We're looking at stats. These right here are what I would consider not sleeper decks. So like these are decks you're seeing everywhere. You have Hela, you have Destroy, you have Bounce, you have this Age of Venom Claw list, you have Move, you have Hela again, you have Galactus. Like these are just raw, just looking at the numbers. This isn't just looking at just like decks holistically. Where if you look at decks holistically as well, maybe it is giving me the same screen. I think if we look at meta tier list is where it's better to look at. So looking at it that way, we're looking at percentage wise. We're going to be looking at post Infinite. This is the last 7 days actually. So we have Surfer, we have Darkhawk, Agent Venom, War Machine, Hela, Bounce. These are like the tier, not necessarily 0, but like A tier, as you can see from that there, or like the decks you're seeing all the time. Hela has 6% popularity. Agent Venom's all over the place. Airshim's at 7% more than Hela right now, by the way.
That's fun.
But what is
Yeah.
the first list that comes to mind for you when you think of a sleeper deck?
So one of the first decks I think that really comes to mind for myself, it's not the fact that any of these decks are bad.
Yeah.
And it's not the fact that it's just the fact that because they don't typically run a lot of the new fun shiny cards, people aren't super interested in them, and so they will fall to the wayside. Untapped because it focuses on content creators who, honestly, a lot of content creators and people who are excited about the new cards. It will very heavily lean toward those new cards and not show a lot of, it can't show mobile stats, can't show a lot of that stuff. So it has that going against it, but still, the first one that I really like, I think I want to talk about would be just the negative tribunal list. And so, what is it? It's in general, I feel like it may show worse there, but I do think it actually is, it's a very decent deck. It puts out very high numbers that can honestly deal with Hela in a very fair way, majority of the time, in my opinion. It's still a lower win rate because you still have to deal with the fact that it is a negative deck. You still have a lot of the variance in there, but you still get a positive cube rate out of this deck because you can still just leave and retreat for careful amounts, similar to the way Hela can work. I know it's still going to show in general that maybe this deck in general is going to be lower tiered, but the super scroll of it all, the magic being able to give you the extra turns, Mr. Negative, all these cards can put such massive amounts of power down onto the board that most decks really can't compete with this. And it doesn't require a lot of very new cards. I think it requires quote unquote, right? But Ravona and Tribunal are pretty much the only like non-series 3 and below cards.
Yes.
I just think it's a really good deck that is often slept on that shouldn't be. And I like it.
It's literally like the thing about this list is like you have to be snapping into your Ravona or your Psylocke or you're just not maximizing your cubes. And I really like the addition of Super Scroll. I mean, Super Scroll's been in and out of this list. They've been kind of fluctuating with it, whether it's like the Wong Sage iteration, but especially right now with how much Claw, how much Darkhawk, with how much Iron Man is everywhere because of Agent Venom, you can truly capitalize on that with a pop-up Super Scroll, especially like even in Patriot matchups, like getting the blue Marvel buff onto your cards. Magic is in a even better place than she was a couple weeks ago because you're not seeing as much, location control in the way of like you're not seeing as much Nocturne. Maybe you see like a Scarlet Witch or a Nico spell every now and then. It really depends if you're facing Airshim or if they get lucky with their Nico spell. But like snapping into this too, like with negative, you're not playing your Jane Foster, so they have to kind of guess, do they have the cards, do they not? So a lot of people cope stay against this list. And I had Tribunal as one of my sleeper decks too, so I'm glad that we both were on the same wavelength because this really does allow you to go over the top vertically, and your opponent has to guess and math out the average between Tribunal across 3 lanes, which is really tough for the most part.
Yeah, no, it's really like you have to, because what is it? You have to take whatever number they have in one lane, then you have to multiply it by 4, then divide by 3. And it may just seem like that little, but math is difficult, especially for people who are just trying to just play a game just casually or whatever. It's just, it can be very annoying. And so I think this list it's very good. It's very telegraphed when you're going to win, when you're going to lose, but it still puts out the numbers that I think a lot of lists struggle with. And I like that.
Yes, I agree, and I think that's a really good starting point. I think when I look at sleeper lists too, of course, you guys probably are not surprised that I'm going to say discard is a sleeper list right now, and I think it's a sleeper list at the moment because I do think next week this list is going to be elevated. I think this list is solid right now. It has some really good tempo. It has some disrupt for your opponents, whether that is with a Gambit hitting one of your opponent's cards on the board or a Moon Knight discarding one of their key cards. The only thing that, like, of course, limits this list, it is a combo list, so it is also draw dependent as well. There's certain instances where you can go over the top of Hela. There's other instances you just get completely waxed by Hela. But I think what really helps this deck now especially, there still is a decent amount of clog, but if you look at it, a lot of people have been trying new things, so you're not seeing as much clog, and that really allows you to do extra things with discard itself to make sure you can get your swarms out of your hand, make sure you're discarding more things. Like, this just feels better this week now, I would say. That's why I'm like saying now it's a good sleeper list. But I'm excited for next week, but that we're jumping the shark there. But I like this list.
It's so fun. This is why I have extra. I told you I had extra lists today because I basically had this one, except I had one that used Helicarrier because I also like the Helicarrier version. And I think, I just think Discard is in a very good place already.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those, I think Discard is a deck that if the meta is good, Discard is viable.
Yes.
And I think right now, I don't think Discard's the most viable right now because of our current meta. And so that kind of like, I just feel like it's Discard and Destroy and stuff like that, which I can't remember who said this, but I remember I was hearing other people talk about this, where you want the decks that have very linear counters to be good, because that means that the counters are good, which means that you can actually use decks that are running counters as opposed to what we're dealing with like Hela.
Yeah.
So Discard in general, I think, is going to be a really good one, which, by the way, I didn't think about this, but I guess Scorn triggers the Collector.
Yes.
We'll have to talk about that more next week. But yeah, Discard's a fun one. I definitely like that a lot.
And then what about your follow-up list? What's your second list?
This is why I'm worried that you have this one, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've got Shuri.
Shuri. Sauron Shuri?
Yeah, Sauron Shuri stuff. So it is, what is it? It's not it's not performing like amazingly in terms of metrics, but or was it in terms of like how many people are playing it? But again, it's a very consistent deck that I feel like if you're worried about being able to go over the top of Hela, I think this deck in particular does amazing things. You're in cards, not deck.
I'm trying to find just Shuri.
Fair enough. Right now, what is it? I'm looking at a list that I currently have in front of me, which it's got like not many games at all, because a lot of people are now using Shuri lists with the, you can see it, the Phoenix Forces and the Symbiote Spider-Man combo decks, but you can see down there the one that I'm looking at. It's 200 games. And again, these are decks that I feel like, for the most part, are very low in terms of how many cards you actually need. I don't think there's a single series. No, I guess it's Scar. Scar is the only...
Which is a flex spot in this list.
Yeah, that's a flex spot. That's the only non-series 4/5 card in this list. Or sorry, the only series 4/5 card in this list. And it's still a really good list. And I think this is another place where like you like this deck. And I think this deck gives you a lot of options. As like when I think of the Shuri Sauron stuff, I do think of a lot of the stuff that you like to run. And I think this deck in particular does really well, especially even with like, we've talked about it a little bit, but in regards to Vision feels weird potentially into the Scream stuff. I don't think Scream's in one of the best places. We can talk about that in a bit, but I think Vision as well just does a lot of value in terms of being able to put that power that wherever you would like it to go on the board. And just that little bit of flexibility that Vision can give you does so much for this deck, and I really like that a lot.
And yeah, I'm a very huge advocate for, Shuri Sauron too, and I think the Taskmaster chains threw people off of this list from playing it, and I think there's a couple different iterations of it that people have kind of been messing around. This is like the core list you've probably seen a lot. I know Mogwai was playing a different iteration of it too, with like Maximus and stuff to have stuff for top end, so like you can Scar Maximus kind of thing. But I think one of the sleeper cards, which makes this a sleeper deck, is Enchantress. With all the ongoing going on right now and stuff too, like this really helps you, kind of go over the top in some of these lists and then have this one card that offsets, whatever's going on. And like when you think of decks that really are going to like win games or steal games for you, like whenever you're in Conquest or on Ladder, is you want to have that one card that they're not expecting. They think in their head, oh, I will lose to this card, but they're not running it in this list. And then, boom, you throw it out there and you steal cubes.
Yeah. No, I just think this list is just good. Again, it's not crazy stats, but I just believe that it does. It just gives great results when you run it. It's not the new thing. It's not super sexy, but it is just a solid deck. And I think it's also fun. We could also be talking this section, not even just as sleeper decks. This could be a whole budget deck too, because a lot of these decks are very easy for newer players to grab into. When people are asking, hey, what's some good decks that I could be running? This isn't the new fun stuff, but that everyone's running and their mom, but this is a great, reliable deck. And all of these are, and I really think that this one in particular does a great job of showcasing how many like lines to victory you can use and how these different cards can be used there, and I really like this one.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to explain it and everything too. And I think like when you think of sleeper decks, you kind of think of stuff that's more affordable. And I think like we could go into Mill, we could go into Phoenix Force, but I don't think those are really all that. I honestly think people are not playing Patriot right now. Because Clog was everywhere, people didn't want to play Patriot. But like now, I think you could probably hop back into Patriot. I used Patriot to hit Infinite as I try and get these taps to work. I used Patriot actually to hit Infinite. I did not play this list, which this list is kind of crazy, but I like it. I think when I think of Patriot though, like I think of something more like just the classic with like you have maybe Onslaught as an alternate or something, but like. Looking at these just two shells right here, like if your Ultron gets hit by Agent Venom, it's not the end of the world. Because yes, Ultron's base power is, you know, something you want to pay attention to, but you're really just wanting the drones to get the buffs from Patriot and Mystique anyways and get that power across the board. So I understand why it's in this list. I like it in the Surfer list too. We got some crazy stuff it looks like going on. No wonder the win rate's really bad. I mean, look, average cubes is -4, -3. Holy moly.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah.
Something more like this. These look a little bit more logical. And like you were thinking of Patriot, of course, with Sandman. And I don't think you have to have Sandman with Patriot anymore. I think on 5 you play your Blue Marvel or you play an Iron Lad instead, and you get the value there. And I think Agent Venom I used in the Patriot list too because getting that 4 power on an Iron Man is just crazy good. Even if it is on a Doom, like that Doom is still a 6/14 at that point. Just being able to use the value of the new cards, and you're getting cards across the board that your opponents have to math out as well. They're like, wait, how much power do we have with Ultron right now with Patriot and Blue Marvel on the board? Can I actually account for this? Like, it just feels like a really good affordable deck like we were talking about. And you can still get cubes, but it's also just another, you got to know when to snap and you got to know when to retreat kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I think this is just a really good deck in general. I think you just get a lot of different options. I will say the biggest thing that really is, it's a question maybe about the Agent Venom stuff, but when you look at those first few lists, they're running Mysterio. Mysterio definitely should be, I wish there was some change to him whenever he got Agent Venomed, because he makes it when he's Agent Venomed, the Mysterio clones also have 4 power, but you can't tell that from looking at him. You have to click on him. I wish they just made the number 4 green there at least.
Yes, like with Bast, how it makes it red when it's 3.
Yeah, which I know it's because that brings the base one down. I get that. I think it definitely though, if all of them get set to 4, that should definitely be a green there. I don't know if that's a thing that it's maybe just a side note in general, but I feel like that's a question thing where I don't feel like it's understood enough, and I forget that oftentimes. And I played that literally, I think like yesterday or something like that. And I played Mysterio, and I'm like, oh, that was an Agent Venomed one. I didn't even realize that because it's just not a very obvious thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's definitely something that would be very just helpful overall going forward. What do you have for your third list, by the way?
What is it? So this is my 4th one, because I definitely had discard as my 3rd. But I've got a 4th one here, and this one I will say I've moved away from. I know we were talking about the very affordable stuff. I've moved away from affordable at this point. Okay. I'm so sorry. But I want to talk about Ronin.
Do we have Ronin?
I'm not seeing Ronin in here, but I think if you just type in Ronin inside of decks, you should get the one I'm talking about here.
Okay, let me see.
And I do not believe Ronin is currently a very good deck in my opinion because of the list that it's running. It's also running a combo with Darkhawk. I think the best list that should be showing up here in a second. And that does especially well with the Hela that we have going on around. It does something similar to what Clog is doing that people don't enjoy, but it does that with the hand instead, and that gives you a lot of value. I really like this stuff. I've been running a list similar to this. I've been trying to do some more stuff with like Grandmaster and things because I've been having fun doing a bunch of on reveals. But this list is also running Cosmo, and Cosmo is an amazing card. You were talking a bit earlier about how Enchantress does so good. Cosmo is just another card that can win games for you on his own, and it's so valuable. Master Mold, even just playing a Master Mold on 2 has won me games because people, if they don't have their draws by then if I just put a Master Mold down on the board, then they're like, well, I'm not going to get my draws by this point. Thanks for that. I'm leaving. Bye.
Yeah.
And it just gives you so much value, so much stuff here. And I just think that this list in general, the Ronin Darkhawk package works incredibly well against a lot of the things that we're seeing the meta trying to do.
Yeah, no, and I think this list could even get better more with Misery, which we'll talk about in a little bit too, being able to trigger these stuff again. And I think like When especially it comes to Hela, having a hand disrupt kind of thing where you're adding Sentinels or you're making their Hellcow cost 6 with Baron Mordo, which I don't know if I don't think are you running Baron Mordo in your iteration of it?
I'm not doing Baron Mordo,
Okay.
but I know people are.
But like, yeah, Baron Mordo having Korg and Rockslide to offset their draws, so when they Jubilee, they're getting a rock, or they're not necessarily getting what they need, maybe an early Hela. Feels really solid. I think this list is definitely, like I said, going to get better tomorrow, either if it's just the Darkhawk version, or if it's a Ronin Darkhawk version, or a single Ronin list. But also, yeah, Cosmo's an incredible spot. You can use Cosmo to snipe, other people's cards, like whenever it's going on. You can also, I've been playing or seeing people play Cosmo on Madam Web, so you can move the Cosmo to another lane, so they have to kind of, are they going to move their Cosmo this lane so I can't do this, or what's going to happen? And then I've also been cheeky in a couple instances where I have Cosmoed and Mystiqued on the same turn, so they have literally nowhere to play their Hela. It works.
No, I've done that. That's so good. Just being like, just shutting down 2 honor reels on the entire board can also just cripple your opponent, because then also that can protect your big cards like Darkhawk and Ronin. The biggest thing with this list that I've had problems with, and if y'all run it, with the Cosmo, be careful, because if you play it too early, they just throw the Master Molded Sentinels into there.
Yep.
And that just hurts, and you're like, oh, you've used my own spells against me, Potter. How dare you? Or something. It's just... So you got to be careful there. You got to be careful against the counter spell there, or just them being able to undo exactly what you are trying to make them go for. But it's still, in general, I think, a really great list. And I think, just like you said, hand disruption, deck disruption. I think we're trying to see a lot of Clog, which is board disruption against Hela. And I don't think Clog, hot take, I don't think Clog is a good answer for Hela. I think it is the answer people are going for, but I do not believe it is the best answer. I think it is still incredibly RNG dependent. And I think a much more consistent answer is stuff like this Ronin Darkhawk package, which makes all of their draws less consistent, makes everything they're trying to do less worth it. I've been able to win just by, I knew that they had, they were about to blade and stuff like that, so I just threw down Master Mold, sent them some extra Sentinels. I Grandmastered the Master Mold to give them even more Sentinels in their hand. Like, it's just, it can be incredibly toxic, but it really does a lot just in terms of filling up their hand, and that's a much more, and their deck are much more controlled areas you can do a lot more stuff with than I think a lot of the other things that we have here.
No, and I like that take. I think that really enables, you also to stay in control, making it so their cards stay in their deck too, so you get the Darkhawk value, and then you can Ironland to potentially get these cards out early. I know you've been using Psylocke to get like your Ronin, Darkhawk, or even Sarah in your list out early as well. So just having different ways to have ins and out, I think, is what really, helps this deck kind of go over the top. And then looking...
And what's your last one? Yeah.
Looking at this over here, so like... I see Surfers at the top, and I think Surfer would have been one of my options, but it's not a sleeper deck because everyone's playing Surfer.
Yeah.
But I do actually like Husky's Agatha list, which was really popular last season, but I actually think it's still really solid. This is a new version of it, and this is incorrect. This is not what Husky was playing, so we need to actually get the right list, which the right list is something like this, but you use Hydra Bob instead of Silver Sable. You have all sorts of other options to disrupt your opponent with Black Bolt. You have the Moon Knight. I like the iteration now that instead of Legion, you're running Lady Deathstrike to offset some of these just smaller cards going on, whether it is like a Madam Web or an Athena or like sort of situations like that. Of course, you have Agatha, but like Agatha only can play cards on even turns. So like turn 1, you get to play a card wherever you want. Turn 2, she can play out your Black Knight or your Silver Sable for you, which is cool. And then turn 3, you play your wave, Agatha plays herself. Or your turn 3, you Lady Sif, Agatha is the highest cost card in your hand, you discard Agatha. You get Moon Knight out. You really don't have any like crazy things to keep Agatha in your hand, and you're going to get 14 power on the board, either as an Ebony Blade or a Ghost Rider, which just feels really good in this list. And into the Hela matchup too, it's also really good because Moon Knight can potentially hit Hela. You have your Black Bolt that can potentially hit one of their other key focal cards in this list. Your wave can offset stuff too. You could wave into a Black Bolt potentially. Waving into Black Bolt, of course, sets all of Hela's high cost cards to 4, so you could hit something like that there. So there's a couple different ins and outs for it, and it just feels really solid. Husky freaking cooked day after Hela got tweaked in the OTA.
Yeah, no, I think that Agatha's a fun deck. I think I haven't seen as well with it, but I believe that it's definitely doing a lot better. I think that it just really gives you a lot more consistency. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think this deck is still being used by a lot of people, because it is extremely consistent in stuff you can do with it. Because Agatha, the biggest thing with her, right, is that she actually got a very large buff with the fact that she is still in your hand and she reduces your deck size. It feels similar to the way that we had at Old America.
Yeah.
Where Agatha's just going to give you more consistency in whatever else you're drawing. Doesn't hit your hand size, doesn't hit anything else like that. It's just good value. So I do think that this is probably going to be another solid deck.
Yeah, I think that's something people don't talk about enough, is that Agatha is a draw. So you have less cards in your deck that you have to, you know, go through. That gives you more ins, more outs to let you know, like, I should be snapping here or I shouldn't be snapping here, because, you know, the odds of me drawing this card get better. Instead of it being a 1 out of 3 or a 1 out of 4, it, you know, it's a 1 out of 2 or it's a 1 out of 3 kind of thing in the future. So, like, it's really solid. But that's going to be the general gist, unless you have any more decks you want to share.
I think I'm going to be good with right there. I just think that we have, there's a lot of really fun answers to the meta and a lot of really fun choices that you can run because they put out good power. They have good stats. They just aren't the new hotness, but you can still run these decks. These lists are all really good, and there are plenty of other ones that we're not hitting here that are really solid decks that have good numbers, good metrics that just we just chose not to talk about here. And so if you want to do something different, you want to do something off meta, or if you're looking for something brand new and as you're jumping into the game, a lot of these decks could be that answer for you in order to give you some interesting ideas here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into Agent Venom and we're going to jump into Scream, and then we're going to come back and we are going to talk about Misery. So let's talk about those really quickly. Let me go ahead and pull them up for us. So we're going to start off with the Season Pass card. Sorry.
No, you're good. Agent Venom's in a blast. According to the untapped stats, he isn't doing incredible. He's got a negative 0.5 cubes, which isn't crazy. What is it? He's just been a very solid card. Almost 50% win rate, 50.1%. And I feel like he's just been a very interesting and a really fun card. This, like, especially much more than last season. And it just feels like such a good Season Pass card. Feels so flexible, feels like it enables a bunch of different things, feels like it can be used in so many different ways, and I really love the idea of this card. This just has felt like an absolute blast in the list that I've played it in. And I don't know. This has definitely just been very solid for myself. How have you felt about Agent Venom?
So, like, just going off the statistics you just said, too, like, this card's already performing better than Symbiote Spider-Man did for the entire season of the Spider-Man season. And I think, like you said, he's just really flexible. And I think what helps him is he helps a bunch of just totally different, unique mid-range decks, and is just like a plug-in piece opposed to something you completely have to build around. I think we were talking about it last time. It's like, you got to build around this card. You know, there's going to be all sorts of deck building and stuff. And, like, there is deck building. Don't get me wrong. But it doesn't feel like you're swapping Agent Venom out for something and it cripples your deck. It feels like it actually adds extra value, especially to bounce before even Toxin comes out and stuff. Like, Agent Venom feels, like, really good. And getting some of these cards, like we were talking about, even Ultron, when he hit 4 power, like, yes, it sucks for that base card itself, but, like, the ability of what the card does is still just incredible. And I think it really has just opened up this whole new avenue, and, like, that's why people have jumped off of Clog. They're like, wait, I actually have a new card I can mess around with and do all sorts of cool things with. Like, I'm really liking it in the Darkhawk list a lot. I'm liking this when, of course, it hits Iron Man, and Iron Man immediately gets 4 power, which is crazy. Like, you still have seen some good bit of Ravonas and stuff, but, like, this is kind of like that 2 slot. You're like, okay, well, I'm putting this in instead of Ravona, and it's going to hit so many different cards for me. It has so many different snap conditions. Like, it just feels like a solid card. And I'm glad that people are like, what do you mean Agent Venom's going to be a good card? No way. And now you look at it, and yes, maybe the cube rate isn't the way it is, but it's like people are still learning how to play this card. But it still just has that overall appeal that, it's just going to keep getting better and better. Yeah.
No, I think that Agent Venom's just an absolute blast right now. I think he adds so much to the game, and it's a very simple mechanic, but again, we talked about it before. It can be complex based off the way you build it, but it's made a lot of interesting decks possible that really wouldn't be possible without Agent Venom. So I really like this card in general.
And then the next card we have from this week as well is a brand new Series 5 card. We got Scream. How we feel about Scream?
Scream is the best anti-move card, or like affliction move card in the game. And because of that, she is great and the deck sucks. That's my opinion. I know I have had a blast playing Scream. I've played so much Scream. I think she is great in the deck that she is in. The decks that are putting her in suck. That's my just initial based off a lot of times with her. That's just where I'm at with her. I don't know. Have you felt differently?
No, I think the decks she plays in are not necessarily good decks. You see, like they still win games. Like I mean, any deck can pretty much win a game. It's just possible. But I think she's a good card. She's not a card that's a must-have. I really like that her ability is global. It doesn't have to be on just a singular lane, and that feels really good. And she feels like she can get strong sometimes. But of course, cards have to move for Scream to be able to get the value. You're not seeing a lot of Jeff right now. You're not seeing a lot of Nocturne. You're not seeing a lot of Vision. You're not seeing a lot of Nightcrawler. So you're having to move cards yourself, which is really interesting. We even had hot locations to help Scream be better and stuff too. But like when she pops off. And like the way I talk about Scream is it's like Scream's ability is like a transaction. Like opposed to some of these other Affliction cards, such as like Silver Sable or even, I'm going to say Kingpin, because Kingpin has to be in the same lane. Silver Sable, to get maximum value from Silver Sable, the card has to be played out onto the board. Or I guess it's better with like a Cassandra Nova situation. Whereas like Scream, the card's already flipped over, or going to be flipped over with the whatever change happens to her because they don't want that.
Unrelated. Kingpin always has hit unrevealed cards. I don't know why that's a question. I didn't know that was a bug, and I dislike that Scream's gonna get changed for it. I don't think that's a nerf to Scream. I think it's just they're finally maybe gonna be fixing some sort of unintended thing. Sure, okay. I dislike the fact that that's something that was unintended, and I wish that was meant to be in the game originally, because this deck isn't already good.
Yeah,
it's gonna get hit.
And like the Kingpin thing too, they have to land in his lane anyways from like a move for them to be able to do that. So like that's a topic for another time. But like not a topic for another time. It goes cohesively. But like I'm just saying, like with this Scream interaction, she gets +2, the other card loses 2. And what's cool about this as well is like if they do have a Luke Cage, Scream still does get power. This other card isn't afflicted with the -2, which is good. Like, I like this card. I like the design. I like it too. But to me, it's a cool plug piece for if you're just seeing a lot of move, opposed to something you got to play anti-move all the time. Because next week, and I think the following week, not a lot of people are going to be testing out stuff with Scream and everything. So this card might just go on the back burner.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that's also said with Scream is that because she is limited to once per turn, she doesn't feel good, in my opinion, unless she's played on turn 2. Yeah. And even then, it's difficult. But it's turn 2, if you don't get that, it's so difficult to make her feel good. Because it just absolutely, I mean, you can only get so little value. And very rarely can you have it trigger on turn 2. So it's typically turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, and turn 6.
Yeah.
Maybe 7 if Magic's here or Limbo, but that's typically like a 210 maximum. It's not good in that way. Maybe 220 if you count transactions or whatever, but yeah. I feel like she's a really fun card. I've had an absolute blast with her. I do not believe she's good.
Yeah. I mean, this Spotlight week was pretty weak too. And it's like, you look at some of these other Spotlight weeks and you're like, okay, this is a good card with bad cards. Or not bad cards, but it's a good card with Series 4 cards. And like Man-Thing is a good card just to have. Mobius is a good card to have, especially I think in the meta we're heading towards the end of the month. Having Mobius for all the bounce shenanigans is going to be smart. But you were thinking this card was going to be great because of the Spotlight week, but it's good, but it's just not a card that we're like it's amazing kind of thing. Same with this next card, which I think a lot of people are low on. Good old Misery over here. I think it's going to be interesting.
No, I think this card's gonna be fun, right? There's a question currently going around where it's like, so one of the things about this card that's unknown is whether or not Misery destroys, or whether or not Misery can trigger the on reveals of cards that are protected by like Wakanda, Armor, Kyera, other cards that would just stop you from those cards from being destroyed. My guess is that she will still perform those on reveals, and it's very specifically because of the wording. People will compare the Grandmaster situation where Grandmaster says you need to move the card and then its on reveal triggers. She specifically says the on reveal triggers first and then the cards are destroyed. So I think that she will still work that way, and I think that's what we're going to be basing our conversations around her today on. So we don't have there's no confirmation of that, at least at the time of us filming this, but that's what our belief is, and that is what we will be discussing Misery with. But with that in mind, like, I just think she's going to be a really fun card, and I'm really stoked for her. What do you want to do with her? I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but
So, like, I definitely think I want to see Misery in, like, a Darkhawk list or the Darkhawk run list like you're talking about. I think you can get some really good value there. I, of course, would love to try her in Mill, and I think, you know, hitting, like Doc D was talking about, hitting, like, a Yondu or, like, an Iceman or, like, a Cable kind of thing, not hitting, like, a Gladiator, Zemo, or, like, your more mid to high-end kind of situation. Just kind of, you know, just making it so they don't have any cards is what I was thinking. But, like, Mill is just not in an incredible spot right now. I mean,
yeah,
with Mill is a good deck, you know, the meta's probably in a bad spot. I mean, holistically.
yeah. I think that you would maybe still like the Zemo though, because if you do it on Zemo, then you can at least, like, because Zemo always brings another card onto the board, and so that could hopefully, like, also clear, like, the clog that you would be making for yourself with her, because she is a 4/7, right? She is a 4-cost 7-power card. She has great stats for this, and so oftentimes the question is going to be, hey, is this on reveal worth getting rid of these cards? Is this on reveal worth whatever, or like all the other cards on reveals, right? I think I don't know, I love it a lot. I really want to try her just with some more lists that run Grandmaster, because I'd love to be able to, again, it's the same logic as the way Odin works. So if you Odin a lane with Grandmaster will, he will move over whatever on reveal card happens, and then all those on reveal abilities will still occur in the order. And if that on reveal card was still at Misery's location, my guess, and it makes sense based off of logic, let's say you're running, I don't know, like you said in your thing, Yondu and you have Grandmaster both in the same lane. If I Misery there, I think it would trigger, I guess it would be Grandmaster then Yondu, or then Yondu. But it would do Yondu, and then Grandmaster would send the Yondu over. Grandmaster would make Yondu trigger again, and then she should make him trigger again, and then destroy him. Maybe I've done my wording wrong there, but I think it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's just going to give you a lot more fun, and I want to do a bunch of abilities like a bunch of times in a row, and I think that's going to be really interesting and fun.
Yeah, if the interaction works the way it does, like, it would be, like, possible potentially, like you're saying, to, like, I think maybe try to explain it as, like, you play Grandmaster first and then you Yondu. The way Misery order is going to work is by the way cards were played. So Grandmaster in the first slot would do his trigger for the on reveal, move a card to the middle first before the other interactions happen. So if Yondu is beside him and he pulls Yondu to the middle, Yondu would go off because of the Grandmaster. And also, since Misery was on that lane, Yondu will go off again, like he got hit twice. So you would be able to have those two interactions happen, which can be really cool. And I think one of the main, like, cards I think you're going to probably see with Misery is the Hood. Getting another demon to just be able to throw down, like, transactionally, she's a 4/10 there because she's also alleviating -3 power on the board for you. Or if someone does Goblin you, that Goblin gets away from your lane. I think you're going to see Misery and Clog as an alternate for, like, some Viper, or maybe you use her with Viper. Maybe you go crazy and you use her with Cersei. Maybe you make Cersei go off again and just do some other things.
That'd be wild.
But it's going to be fun just to mess around with this card. I think because people's expectations are so low on it, it's going to be really cool just to see what people brew with this card, whether it is the Clog route or the Darkhawk route, or something just entirely different. Maybe you're trying to make a Forge go off again, or, like, maybe you're trying to make a Nico go off again. Like, it'll be just interesting to see what people tech in here. I think in Pixie, she's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, you play anything in Pixie, right? But, like, doing this potentially with some other stuff later in the game, even on, like, a Doctor Doom or hidden behind an invisible woman kind of thing, like, it could be cool.
No, I want to do, I think two of the other places I want to run her is Thanos is one, because I think Thanos, you can clear out the stones that you want to keep around, or you don't want to keep around. Because I've tried to tech in Lady Deathstrike before, and it's just always felt a little bit awkward. But I think Misery just naturally works there because it also gives you more of those card draws that you struggle with as Thanos.
Yes.
And then another place that I actually really like is trying it out inside of the Hammer Bros list. Trying to do that stuff in combination with what's it called? Sorry. Wait. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, sorry. Reset that. But trying to do Misery with the Hammer Bros list, and then maybe trying to trigger all those again, get rid of them. And the similar way you use Odin, but now you can use like a Shadow King in addition to that, and to be able to reset something else, or get you a little bit of extra power, a little bit of extra tech you can play on the final turn. And I think that is where a lot of value is going to be coming from her. I think she's going to be a great card. I think she is well statted and is going to do well. So I'm excited for her.
You can also clear off Lockjaw lanes with Misery too. So like if you do get clogged in your Lockjaw lane, or like are about to get clogged, maybe you get your hammers a little too early, you make your hammer go off again so Misery can kind of reset that area, which will be really cool. No, I hadn't thought about the Hammer Bros, but I do like that idea. And like we've seen on screen, this is right here is going to be the Spotlight variant for Misery right now. Of course, I think it's good, but I think the In-Hyuk Lee is, oh my goodness.
Yeah, this one's good. I think I'm still partial to the Panda art, but I'm fine with this being different ones here. Yeah, she's gonna be a blast. She doesn't destroy non-on reveal cards, which is what I was thinking at first. I was incorrect there, but that is, yeah, no, she's gonna be. I think she's gonna be a really fun card. And again, we've said it before. This is the goated Spotlight week. This is the Spotlight week to go for if you're missing Spotlight weeks. If you're missing Namora and War Machine, two other cards that I think are just good. They are all, they have been and they will be good. And if you don't have them yet, this is where I think you should be getting those. They're so valuable cards that are irreplaceable in the list that you are having them in. And I think if you're running Namora, or sorry, if you're running Misery, I don't think that you're gonna get an easy replacement for her. Otherwise, you just have to use something like there's no card that fills the slot that Misery will fill.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, like you said, this is the only week this season that has 2 other Series 5 cards in it. So definitely keep that in mind. Just value-wise, it is 18,000 collector's tokens if you get all 3 cards, if you didn't own already all of them. And the Namora variant is amazing. The War Machine variant is pretty good, but the Namora variant is incredible.
Thank God. I just want more great Namora variants.
But now we're going to move on over to some OTA things. So we're going to lead off with Dance. Dance and I have been talking about OTA. You know, we always love prepping for OTA things, especially, I feel like the past couple ones, we've actually gotten at least 1 or 2 OTA predictions right going into the OTA.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at least getting something correct, which I don't honestly expect often. I kind of love that. It's been good. It's been nice to be able to actually like try to get these. I don't know. I'm trying to feel more of a beat and try to pull back a little bit more. I think we're both doing that, and I think it's allowing us to actually have like a better idea of what's happening. And I also think like we've called something like 2 or 3 weeks in advance. That something will get changed, right? I think we talked about like, what is it? I think we've gone for even maybe more intense ones, but like I think we've talked about Moon Girl, Black Panther, and then those got changed a month or so later. So it's stuff like that where we're calling it in advance, and even if these don't happen right now, I think, at least for mine, I feel like that we have a good chance of them still happening in the future. Yeah. But the biggest one that we could say though, before we even hit any of the ones that I think you and I actually have prepped, they have so Second Dinner has confirmed. I'm going to read this from a Team Answers post. Second Dinner said, and I'm going to remove context here. We're just going to give their responses. This one sentence that Glenn Jones, lead designer, what is it? I believe it's gameplay designer. I don't remember his exact role at Second Dinner. But he said, and I quote, "The Hela deck continues to chug along at a modest win rate, but we respect that the play rate is frustratingly high, and they will address that." He confirmed that earlier today, as of when we were reading this. So this is, we're on Monday, but when it comes out on Tuesday, which means on Thursday, right? That has to mean that Hela's going to get hit today on that day, whether that's the deck herself or. Oh, so do you have anything written down for Hela then?
So call me crazy, but what if you just make it so Hela doesn't interact with Luke?
How so? What do you mean?
Like, make it so, like, the cards that Hela brings back just don't get the Luke saving them the -3 power. Make it in such a way where...
So they have to...
Yeah, so it just doesn't interact. Kind of like how Shadow King goes through Luke Cage now. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to code it because I personally am not a coder by any means. But like, what if that was the thing? Like, you just make it so they can't interact with Luke, or I don't think you change Luke Cage himself at all. I don't think he's an issue whatsoever. It's just the interaction with Hela is just that's the worst part.
That's fair. I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. They could do something to that bit. It feels like it's going to be confusing because Luke... I don't know, that just feels confusing at a certain point because Luke saves stuff from, like, the only other situation that's kind of similar would be Quantum Realm, which changes the base power of all cards to 2 power. And Luke still saves them from that. I don't know. That just I like the idea of hitting the Luke angle, because then it lets that knob still be able to be turned. But the question is, I mean, Second Dinner could probably figure that. If there's a way that can be concisely like shown inside of the cards, that doesn't just feel like a blatant exception or whatever. I don't know. Just like saying this ignores Luke. I don't.
What if it's like resurrect all cards you discarded to random locations and set their base power, or get their base power -3? Would that interact with Luke or no?
Base power still no base power, because that would still get stopped by Quantum Realm. Like Luke still stops Quantum Realm as is. So if Luke doesn't stop base power from being modified, if they change that about Luke, which would also nerf that bit. I do think Luke is good, and that's honestly potentially a change that they could do. But if they, I think that would be one of the, maybe it's a world where the ongoing for Luke just says it doesn't work with base power changing or whatever. If that's a thing, then maybe that could still work. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. But I was thinking of, because one of the things I've seen, and I think this is an idea Second Dinner will never do. They've said where where I've heard people say, like, just limit the amount of cards Hela can bring back. Make it so she brings back one at each location. Only her locate. I would never believe Second Dinner will do that. I do not believe Second Dinner will limit the amount of cards that are brought back. Limit the amount of, or make it location specific, right? You already have the unique stuff with, they've talked about Ghost Rider, Black Knight. And I think the idea I've currently thought of, and I think it fixes the issue I currently have with Hela. And again, this is whatever my ideas, so who knows what's going to happen. But it is, what if Hela resurrect all cards you discarded to random locations you are winning?
Ooh.
So it forces it. So the whole part of the gameplay that's, I think, my least favorite part of Hela, where she just does nothing and wins anyway. She doesn't get the value from that. You have to be winning those locations in order for those cards to be brought back.
I like it because we have a lot of cards that have the text that if you're losing this location. We have a couple that, of course, interact with winning. But the winning, it would make them have to fight for other lands, and it would allow you to disrupt Hela a lot more so you can have that interaction. Because it feels like, for the most part, you don't have an interaction with this deck, especially with Hellcow being inactivate now.
Yeah, and I don't even know if, in that world, I don't even know if you need to do -3 power. The knob that Luke exists, I don't know if that even is, I mean, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but that just makes it so you don't have to worry about the other locations. It just kind of puts it similar to the way Galactus works. Maybe makes it want to fight for priority. You only want to fight for 2 lanes, and you know, okay, I'm probably just going to win this other lane here. And and maybe she could even get, I don't know, but like, it could actually be a place where like her stats getting increased would make sense. You would want her to win her location because other stuff's going to be happening. But it just, in general, gives you a lot more reason to, it's my biggest problem with Hela right now, where it feels like she does nothing and still wins.
Yeah.
And that's what I dislike currently. And so that was my idea for it. I don't know if that could be something that they might do, but I do think that would be the situation where it actually doesn't make you feel like, oh, Hela did nothing to win that game. No, she actually was trying, and then she just like swung out and just absolutely destroyed me on this turn. Okay, fair play.
Yeah, no, I think having more interactivity, like you're saying, that sounds cool. That's a really good actually vouch for Hela. Now, do you have another card that comes to mind that you would like to change? Yeah, because
Hela's confirmed-ish that is going to be done. So these are, now we're going back into our even higher bits of speculation. And I think I'm going to go with my wildest take as of yet. We're going to talk about Hood.
Okay.
What is it? And not the Hood, though. We're going to talk about the Demon. I think Demon goes to a 1/4 or 1/5. I think Clog and Bounce are currently very, very good. And I don't think you can change the Hood due to Ancient Venom. I don't think it's going to matter. And I also think Nico's a really good card. And I really love Nico. But you hit the Demon, just bring it down a bit. That nerfs some really good cards. Still makes it a good card, but it just nerfs the way that those other cards are going to work. And I think that it would be a solid change.
That'd be a pretty big change overall, too, because it does affect 2 cards. Or technically affects, 3 cards, I guess, in a sense, because it affects the Hood, if that's like Demon, and if that's Nico. but
Yeah.
that would be really interesting. I'm not opposed to it. I'd have to see like the difference between playing the hood on the board more often than the demon on the board, but I could see if bounce is really an issue, and I feel like they just attack bounce all the time because it's a high skill deck.
I think bounce is gonna get hit during this OTA. I have another bounce card we're talking about today because I think I have only nerfs other than the hella stuff, you have only buffs.
I have only buffs, yes.
And I've got 2 different bounce cards I think that are gonna get hit, and this is one of them. But I think the demon 1/4, making it a 1/4 or a 1/5, I think it's a very plausible place because it really just hurts. It hurts a lot of different decks that are trying to do fun stuff with the hood, and I think the hood has consistently grown in popularity and is a really good card, and I like that. I just think it's getting to a place where the hood is too much value for everything you can do with it, with the clogging your opponent's side, with with just destroying it and being okay with it, with getting that demon and the demon. If you bring that demon down in power, it gives you less value in the hood itself, and I think could change a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, I think I could see going 1/5 at least to test, and if 1/5 is too good, maybe they change it again. But I like that.
What do you got?
So I got
rather than my nerfs.
So I got good old Copycat. I have Copycat going back to her OG ability, where it steals instead of just copies the ability.
Woo, you're gonna have to sell me here. Really? Why do you have this one?
So I feel like her ability, like, yes, it's a copycat. You would think it just copies itself, but like this card, like, I'm not seeing this card anymore. I think the play rate's gone down dramatically. I think the steal is better. And it's like the bottom card of your opponent's deck anyways. So like more often than not, they're not drawing this card. And I think this card wasn't necessarily like meta-defining kind of card. It was a meta card for sure. But it wasn't like, this card is the worst. I cannot believe this is happening. But like where we're at in the meta right now, I think having this as a steal ability, as we're leaning more into a bounce heavy like meta going forward in the future, I think like this is really would be helpful to have it as a steal instead of just a copy. I think the unknown aspect of it as well is like, wait, what did they actually steal with Copycat? I think you can also take away still like not hearing the sound effect of it. But I just think this just needs to go back to what it originally was, and I think it was a good card then. It wasn't overpowered. I just think she just needs to return.
I think I just disagree though. Unfortunately, I think I might just disagree because I'm going to go with the stats here on this one because at least according to the Untapped stats, she's got a 52% win rate, 9% popularity, and a 0.1 positive cube rate. She's good right now. I don't think she needs a buff.
What deck is she
I think she was way too good before.
What deck is she in right now?
What are her best decks in? I can.
Is it Airsham?
What is it? Stature Black Bolt is the best deck. You have Stature. Airsham is the second one, which actually has a negative 0.35 cube rate, so I would not even say Airsham's second best, just second most played. Wiccan stuff is after that. And then you go into like, just more Wiccan things. She feels like a fun card in Wiccan, and a lot of I think one of the reasons we're seeing less of her is because of the last deck that I'm seeing her in, Agent Venom. Because Agent Venom brings her down and makes her less enticing.
I just haven't seen this card like at all. Even in Wiccan, I didn't see Copycat in Wiccan ever, or even in like that Black Bolt list ever. I see like Cassandra Nova, Moon Knight, and everything, Viper, just never Copycat.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's less of her, but I don't think she needs the buff that you're talking about here. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe the stats disagree with me while I knock my stuff down in the background. But I don't know. I'm not sold on this one, and I'm interested. I'm interested if there are other stats here that disagree with that.
Is this the past 7 days or past 30 days?
7.
What about past 30?
She still has the 1 cube. She went down. Wait. Oh wait, no. You know what? The first time I was talking about past 7 days. My bad. Past 7 days, she's at a 52% popularity is at 5.7, so it's still lower, but it's not bad. It's still B tier, and it's still the same cube rate. So it lowered in popularity, but I think that's simply due to the Agent Venom bit. but I don't think it's still bad. The win rate hasn't gone down by 0.5%. Cube rate's the exact same. I don't know. I was incorrect about the first, but I still think I think it's still a good card. I just don't think it needs to be everywhere.
I'm not saying it needs to be everywhere. I just think it's okay to go back to steel.
Yeah, I don't think it's okay. I was scared by this card. I was annoyed by this card. You know what? We can disagree. We can disagree because one of the cards that I want to say should get nerfed is one you just mentioned. I think Cassie needs to go down. I've talked about it before. And I think one of the first things we talked about when we talked about Cassandra Nova getting nerfed was her going down to negative, and I think she should have a negative base power. Either -1 or -2. I think that she is currently seen too often right now and is, what is it? She's in 12.3% of the meta, has a 54% win rate and just under 0.2% cube rate. We're talking about best decks. We're talking about those Dark Hawk lists. We're talking about the Affliction lists. We're talking about, again, Airisham because she's a great counter to Airisham. She's also great with Agent Venom. She just has so many places where she is a really great card. And I think that she is too versatile as is. And I think she needs to get brought down at least a little bit just in the base power. At least make it so that when you Agent Venom with her, if you don't get to hit her with Agent Venom, she becomes less appealing.
I mean, I'm indifferent about Cassandra. I don't think she necessarily needs to change again. I think if you change her again, you see even more Airisham, and that's one of my least favorite decks to see. And I think even, yes, she does affect Airisham, but I feel like she's not too detrimental at the moment. I think if we were talking about more last season, when there was a lot more Ajax and a lot more Affliction beforehand, I think if we go into some of these upcoming weeks, like maybe it is this Misery week, or maybe it's the Agent or the Anti-Venom week, when people are not having fun with the new cards and they go back to the old decks, that's when you really feel a lot of Cassandra, you feel a lot of Clog, you feel a lot of stuff like that, because people don't want to try new things because the cards don't feel good. But I don't think this card is all that demeaning. I mean, it doesn't feel good when it happens, but I feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like it necessarily needs to change. The win rate's good with a 54%. Like, that's really solid. But not every card I think that has over a 50% win rate needs to be nerfed, even above like 54%. I don't think it's anything that crazy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think, is it the, wait, let me check this bit. It is the, what is it? So the Dark Hawk, Rockslide, Korg, for fun fact, speaking of the 54%, though, and Cassandra Nova, those are the highest win rate cards according to public stats. Those 4 cards. What is it? All of those are above 54%. That's none of them break it. None of them go below. And then when you get to below that, all of those have worse stats than those guys right there. So I feel like they're very good cards, and I still like the idea of them getting taken down. But whereas Rockslide, Dark Hawk, and Korg, they've got only 5% of the meta popularity. Cassie's at 12.3 in terms of the last 7 days again. So I don't know. I'm fine with disagreeing. I'm fine with disagreeing here because that's fun. I don't think we have to agree on every single thing, and I'm okay with that.
And I think also, like, a lot of people got Cassandra Nova from the diner, and I think that's another reason why her popularity is so high, is because people have access to the card. And Airisham is the most played deck right now in Post-Infinite at 7%, opposed to Hella's 6.7. So I think that is why the win rate's higher for Cassandra Nova and those cards too.
Yeah, and also Darkhawk's a great answer to Hella. So then Cassandra Nova fits in Darkhawk, and it does that. So yeah, it's definitely fair why those cards, and maybe a shift in Hella, maybe a shift in some of the other stuff would change these cards to make them feel better. And maybe this is the wrong answer. Maybe this is an answer to the problem, and the answers need to get fixed. The problem gets fixed, and then this comes back down or whatever. I'm willing to accept that. I think that there's a lot of fun stuff, but rather than all the negatives, what's a positive? Who do you want to see get some more love here?
So I'm extremely biased on this card, okay?
Oh no.
But I would love to see Scarlet Spider go to a 3/3.
Oh, I think 3/4.
I mean 3/4 I would love, but I think 3/3 is I'm having the bar really low, so they can give it a 3/4. But I think this card at 3 costs. So like Miles is a 4 cost, but Miles' ability allows him to become a 1 cost if a card moves. Spider-Man's a 3/5, moves a card. This at a 3/3, it adds another clone to another side. I would love this as a Surfer card. Like, it would be so much fun as a Surfer card.
No, there's a lot of stuff you could do with this card if it was 3 cost. I'm fine. Like I'm fully supporting you. I will wear the Scarlet Spider shirt with you. I'm here for it. I think this card, it's a shame that it's so bad.
Yes.
This is one that I think this card gets buffed either this OTA or the coming one.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna get buffed. I think there is no, if they don't buff this card, I don't get it. I don't know how they could just choose to not buff this card, because it really is not doing good. And I don't get how they could just be like, yeah, Scarlet Spider's fine. I feel like this goes into the whole conversation we had last week, which if y'all didn't, you should listen. But we talked about whether or not Activate's actually a good ability. And I think Activate is I think it has some places, and if it's at a 4 cost with Scarlet Spider, I think it's a detriment. If you bring it to a 3 cost, I think it's fun.
Yes.
But right now it's, yeah, this is a card I won't argue with. I'm looking at the cube rate and such. Negative 4.7 or 0.47. Misspoke for a second. Win rate of 45%, popularity of 6.7. And according to the tier list that Untap gives you, it's a D. So this card, I agree, definitely needs some love. I think it's great, and I think it's just a great card, and I think this is going to be a good change.
And the popularity of it right now is just because of not 7 days ago, but like 8 days ago, I think, when it was a weekend mission and it had just come out. So like its popularity is going to go right down the chute when Untap gets the new 7-day report. But this would be, I think, a good change. Of course, it goes into Surfer, but like you can use this instead of maybe Brood, or you use this with Brood kind of thing. It gets better Patriot value and stuff too. I think just at a 3 cost, it feels better. What do you have for your third change?
So my third change, it's, like I said, I think Bounce is doing really well, and I think Bounce is currently too good in the meta.
Okay.
And if I was realistic, I would say I think Toxin should get hit, the upcoming card. But
Toxin?
I don't believe it will.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say that because I don't believe that they have very rarely nerfed a new card before it comes out. I don't think Toxin's going to nerfed, and I hate to say it, but I think Beast is going to get hit again.
Beast, okay. Do you change his power?
Yeah, I think he just goes down to a 3/4. I don't think you have to hit him hard, but you just need... He's just a good card. Bounce is a really great archetype right now. And in all honesty, this may, like, I think it's just a slap on the wrist. It's not even, it doesn't hurt. I think a lot of people were naysaying Beast going to a 3 cost. I was one of them. And I think he's still fine. The deck is fine. And I think it's already good. And I think Toxin is going to make it even better. And I think that Beast should just slap him on the wrist. I will accept a 3/4. If you make him a 3/3, Agent Venom exists. I will be less excited still, but I'm not excited about any of these changes. It's just a situation where like Beast is just a good card. And they've already said they're hitting Hela, so Hela's getting hit. I don't have to worry about that, right? Oh, please. But Beast, just go down to 3/4. It'll be okay.
I think I'm okay with 3/4. I think if they're doing, and like, history repeats itself, they are going to do something to Bounce just because it's so good, and like the skill cap with it is incredible, and they want everything still to be not as competitive, and not as competitive, but like they want it to be more casual and everything. I could see them hitting it just to be like, okay, you guys are good at the game. You guys are going to be able to work around this anyways, kind of, which sucks, but like I could see it.
It's funny. It's not directly related, but fun fact. When there's what is it again? The game I played before Marvel Snap was called Clash Royale, and there was a card in it, and the card was the Miner. The Miner just simply went to the whole point of the game was just a tower defense game. Took down 1 of 3 towers of your opponents, and you had 3 towers to defend. Let's go.
A little bit
fun. So the Miner, when the game first got launched, the Miner did. What is it? I think it had a very little reduction to how much it would actually do to towers, whatever. It would hit the crown tower, the towers that your opponent was defending every single time. And it had to get nerfed repeatedly because just the ability just to go straight to your opponent's side and hit and take them down was so good that they got brought down so far. It's still a good card nowadays, but I think it's at a point where it does like less than half of what it did originally when the game first originated. Same cost, same ability, but like you said, as the skill of players has gone up, the card becomes better because it's a very skill-intensive card. And I think Beast is a very skill-intensive card and will probably get brought down. And I could see it still getting hit in the future, honestly. because I think it's a very good card, and the fact that it makes your cards cost less is so beneficial that it could still go down further. So it's a situation where, like, yes, this card, I love it, I want it to be good, but if it's too good for I don't mean to be rude to casuals, but like if it's too good that anyone can grab it and use it and bounce becomes too good because of it, then I think it needs to be brought down even more so, and bounce needs to be an archetype that you have to be rewarded for the complex plays. Being too easy is a problem.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good take. It's a sad take, but I think
it's a sad take. I hate it, but it's
the headspace.
I think it's a real take.
Now,
but
instead of a
rather
card,
than sad.
Yeah,
Yes,
I got something I think you might actually like. So this card is a 3/4 right now. I think you can make Nocturne a 3/5 again. That's all I'm gonna say. I think you can make Nocturne a 3/5 again.
I like it. Is this still true after the Scream week?
Yeah, I think even before Scream, Nocturnes kind of fell out of the meta, and no one was like playing Nocturne as much. It's the same thing like with Jeff. People play Jeff, but they didn't. And I think this is also a really good interaction for all the Legion scamming and War Machine stuff that's still going on right now. I think buffing her back to a 3/5. Like, she's still playable, but it makes her more playable, and it does help offset that, which I think still is super annoying. It's definitely not as annoying, I feel like, losing to Hela, but you can't play any cards. So, like, with Hela, you're staying in the game sometimes for 4, sometimes for 8, because you're like, you know what, I can beat this. Even if this goes here, I'm going to be good. Whereas, like, you just get Legion scammed, you're just like, okay, well, I lose 2, just for sure, because they have the combo and they have what it takes to beat me. But I think having Nocturne change to a 3/5 again allows you to be able to offset that combo. I know that's just one thing, but there's also a lot of Magic around right now. Like, if there's no Nocturne, Magic just gets to run rampant. Magic gets to run rampant. This Legion thing gets to run rampant. I think getting her just to a 3/5 again, she had her time. She was in the penalty box for a little bit. She was in timeout. I think she's okay at a 3/5. And I think especially with this being Nomura's week, Nocturne was a very good card with Nomura when Nomura first came out. I would not be surprised if they change her back just to boost some more Nomura play rate too.
I am not sold yet. If she is struggling after this week, if she's struggling like in the coming weeks, I'll agree with you. I'm worried about like a Scream bias situation where it's just like, because Scream is currently as the top card, or it's the new card for the week, other than Agent Venom. I feel like if that's a situation where it's still going to be a problematic or not a great card post that time, then I'll agree. I want to see that happen first before I agree. But in general, I do get the idea and I like it. I'm trying to be cautious here, but I like it. I like her getting love. She's fun, but I'm still worried. We'll see.
All right.
But
do you have any other OTA cards?
I think those were it, right? That's all we had here?
That's all we have.
Yeah.
So we can go ahead and we can move on to the next section. But first, let us know down below, you guys watching here on Tuesday, what cards would you like to see changed? I'm going to throw one out here without any explanation whatsoever. I would love Dawkins to get a buff, but let's see if anything happens in the future. I just want to throw that out there. Let me know down below if you guys think Dawkins needs to change at all or not. We'll see. But this, of course, is before Scorn week. But I'm
wondering if he's better with Scorn.
He could be better with Scorn.
Okay.
Yeah. But now I'm gonna pull the Wolverine card back up on screen for us, because when it comes to these League exclusives, we have a new card back with League exclusives, as well as 2 other variant stands, right?
Yeah. So we have a bunch of other because of the 2nd anniversary of Marvel Snap, which is really cool. We're getting some new card backs, and fun time. I think this is the first time we've had a new card back that actually says Marvel Snap on it since the Game of the Year one. It's either that one or Silver Surfer or the Cosmic one, or no, was it Zabu's one?
There was There was a card back for the MODOK season that had Marvel Snap, for the Savage Lane season with Zabu, and then Game of the Year card back, I believe, was the last one prior to the
so there are
defaults.
Yeah, so there are a bunch more of those, and the current one, right, is you can get this by having an iOS device and logging in for an anniversary month, whatever. They're partnering, some partner with Apple currently going on. If y'all have that, If you'll have an iOS device, you can do that. If you don't, go to your Apple Store, download Marvel Snap onto one of their devices, and then just log in with your account. I don't know if that works, but try it, or get your buddy who does it. Does that work? Actually, I don't know if that works.
I mean, I don't know. Just please make sure you guys sign out of it before you leave the Apple Store.
What do you mean? No, you leave it on there so that everyone else can just farm free cubes for you. That's it.
Oh, right.
You're getting
right.
wins.
Yeah.
You actually you make a deal with Apple so that they have everyone play on your account for you, so you can just get a bunch of free wins. Easiest game. But no, so you have that this one, which is currently happening because you just need to log in on an iOS device between October 7th through the 13th of this month, and I believe it'll be exclusive for that. One thing I'm noticing with the with exclusives, right? Because we got a bunch of league exclusives here, but before we even go to this bit, we have the Collector's Vault in terms of exclusives. I don't know if we've talked about that yet.
We have not talked about that. It's towards the end of the month. I think it's the 21st. Or
do you know if card backs are going to be showing up in there?
All I know is variants so far. I don't know anything about card backs or avatars. But it is going to be bundles that have been out for at least a year, I believe, that are going to show back up in a special section of the shop. And they are going to be more than 1,200 gold for some of them, and some of them are going to be more than 2,400 gold. So more than a super rare, and some of them will be more than a returning spotlight variant. I don't know how much more. Is it going to be 3,000 gold for some of these? Which I wonder if it's the $100 bundles are going to be maybe the 3,000, which is close to what, $50 for one of these cards, which would be if it's $100 bundles, that's half of how much it costed originally, but still, it's a lot of resources. And like, I have a couple of those cards, which I think next Yap we're going to talk about any bundle variants that we have missed that we might actually pick up in the bundle shop.
That'll be a fun conversation.
So we'll leave that till then because I have a couple on my mind. But
no, because I was thinking about that, right? I was thinking about this. If you don't have an iPhone, do you have a way to get this at all?
Yeah.
Is there any of those like exclusive? I wonder if I hope the collector's shop is used for more than just that. As much as I really like my exclusive Magneto and Miles Morales card backs, Stegron, Death Mech, if those are available to buy in the collector's shop, I think that's fair and I would like that. That's a side note entirely. But in terms of the actual league exclusive things, so anyone who plays in leagues starting October 11th, and I think it typically goes for about 2 days, so 24 hours starting from the season shop reset, October 11th, or
I think it's
at
like 48 hours.
I want to say it's 48 hours, yeah, so noon EST, or noon Pacific Standard Time. Then anyone who joins that will get the Deadpool pixelated one, Celebrate Bit Deadpool, I think is what they're calling it, something like that, or 8-bit pool. And it's gonna be cool. That's gonna be fun. But the biggest thing is that now you have the top 3 players in each league are gonna get exclusive variants here, featuring Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Some they're playing like a card game or something like that. I don't know. But
they're playing a video game. They got controllers.
They have controllers and such. Fair enough. Okay. What do you? I don't know. They showed that putting exclusive stuff inside of leagues. They didn't do it before. They haven't done it since then, right? And I thought they were gonna bring like the Jeff emote with the Jeff week of leagues and such like that. They haven't brought them back, and I don't enjoy the grind of leagues, so I'm not excited about this. What are you feeling about the league exclusivity stuff here?
My main question here is, will this finally be a point with leagues where there's not an exploit? Because if there is an exploit, then they can, like, it's not like they can never put exclusive stuff like that into leagues, but that's what the feeling's going to be across the community if there is an exploit. Everyone is going to be freaking really upset, and I think some people already hate the concept of leagues because some people are just casuals. Like, shout out to No Big Deal and the kid, the filthy casuals, who are like, some people only play on the weekends. I know Zodrex only plays on the weekends. So, like, if you can only play on the weekends, someone gets to play all day on Friday. There's almost no chance sometimes for you to be able to catch up. It's like, who has a job? Who doesn't have a job? Who's got the time? Who doesn't have the time? So, like, that's what really is the feels bad situation when it comes to leagues. I wonder if there is such a way where you can put people into a league based on how much play time they play weekly, and that's something you could account for. But I doubt that is a thing. So it's going to be a feels bad for some people. I do like that the variants are a Moon Girl, and a Devil Dino. So they are really obtainable cards for most people to start in the game. So pretty much anyone who plays in a league can get those, like not get those variants, but can use those because they get them in like Series 1 and Series 2. But it's going to be a hassle. Like, it's going to be a grind, especially with it is actually not just a card border, it's exclusive variants, because that's a flex people are going to have over each other, right?
Yeah. And so one of the things they've said about the Vault, which is part of the reason why we even brought that up in the first place, the Vault says, I don't think it's just bundle variants, I think it's exclusive variants. So
The Spectrum?
Right, there are people who are like Super Tech God, who is trying to collect every single variant in the game and has been able to because of some like random guesses or like those types of situations where he wasn't able to get those. Might be able to get that with this. So one of the things I'm going to hope for is these two cards will show up in the shop later on. Even if they're super expensive, I don't care. I'd rather just, if this is any sort of exclusive, if it's any sort of exclusive variant inside of that collector's vault, I dislike this a lot less.
Yeah.
Because then you can still get exactly when exactly when you can do the leagues, whatever, and then you can maybe still get it in a year if you really still want them, right? So they're not forever. They're just like they're a lock behind a year, and we've had that before with Spotlight variants, and I like the way it currently works, even though it's really expensive. It still creates a good amount of exclusivity for the team, and I think for those variants, and I think that's fair. It's not nice.
Does it come back all the time, or does the vault only once a year?
They said I think it's once a month is the way they've described it.
Okay, that's actually really solid if it's once a month. I like that more because, like, if you think about it when it comes to other games, like, I'm going to say, like, League of Legends, like Valorant, those are Riot-owned games. They have a part of the month where they have 5 different variants or 5 different skins come to your shop at a discounted rate than what they normally would be. And it's 5 random variants in the entire game once a month. So instead of them costing $20, they cost $10, or sometimes instead of 10, they cost 5. So it gives you like, okay, this day of the month, let's see what variants I get to choose from now. Which is cool, but I wonder how big the vault is going to be. How many how many things?
Yeah. No, and I think, and you can always argue that it's going to be X amount of gold, and gold is equal to real money in this way, but also gold you can get for free. You can get at minimum 500. It's 500 gold a season, maybe more. Like, you can get a lot of gold per week because of the daily missions, because of season pass stuff, because of the reaching infinite, right? I think it's level 90, you get a 500 gold, which is really
500 gold,
generous.
90, and I think per week you can get close to, I think you can get 100 a week. 100 to 200
You can get a lot of gold in general, like saving up over time. So yes, you can still argue this is, what is it? If it costs 3,000 gold for maybe the most exclusive ones, yes, you can argue it's $30, $40, whatever you need to say, but also it's free. People have been saving money. People have a lot of gold saved.
Yeah.
So much so that Second Dinner, and it's not nice again, but Second Dinner's reevaluating all the bits of gold, all the bits, and like revaluing those. I've gotten 4U bundles now. Used to get basically 1 cent per piece of gold. It's now gone down to like, I think it's like 800 gold, something like that per $10 or whatever. So they've been evaluating all those and changing those up because they are giving a really decent value on a lot of those things, and they're trying to have to figure out like how they're going to deal with people sitting on these massive piles of gold. I'm sitting on 12,000 gold or something like that right now because I really want to buy. I'm going to spend all of it, I think, coming, I think tomorrow from when this goes live, because of I'm trying to being album complete, even if I'm still missing the Luca Claretti Hellcow and the Venomized Quicksilver Second Dinner. Give me those cards. I want them. I don't care if I'm in the vast minority here. Your stupid thing that tells people, hey, these are the variants you want in your shop. No, you're wrong. I want every single variant in every single album. I want to get the album complete. I get it. Activate whale sounds. Give me those last 2 cards so I can finish having every single emote in the game, because now I'm going to be spending all the rest of my gold on the what is it? It's the weird Nightmare Peach Momoko ones that I honestly think look really not good.
And the Here's Carnage emote.
Yeah, and you're gonna get the Here's Carnage emote. I think I'm good on all Carnage for now.
No, all that stuff. Here's Carnage is the emote for the Peach album.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna get that one. Or I'll have another emote, and that's what I'll be spending all my gold on. But I'm trying to spend the gold for those particular things. I'm different than others. Sorry, I guess I got into a little rant, but still. But I really like but there's definitely people who are trying to just save gold, and they're looking for the really good gold bundles and really good value in terms of those. And I don't think they're going to do gold bundles that are good anymore. I don't think they're ever going to bring them back. And and it's because if you continually reward people who are sitting on massive piles of gold for saving that gold and then giving them a value that's better than the actual rate that they would get for just turning that gold directly into credits, you are rewarding them for sitting on that, and that messes with the economy. Sorry, free-to-play players. I'm so sorry. Yell at me in the comments. It creates interactivity on the video, so thank you. But like, actually, right, that creates a whole thing right there. So that's going to be why they're doing this type of stuff. And so more ways to spend the gold, more ways to spend collector tokens. I still wish it costed collector tokens there. God, we're so off the track from League exclusives.
Well, the thing is, like, when we're talking about exclusives too, I'm really hoping they include season pass variants. I think that'd be another great thing for them to add to the vault itself. Is, you know, especially for free-to-play players, you maybe weren't unable to get this variant because you don't want to spend the money to get the season pass. Which, I mean, I get it. You don't want to spend money. That's fair. But like, the League exclusivity is really just going to depend like on playtime, and like I wonder. I just wonder, is Conquest going to be included again? Because last time it wasn't. It was all ladder. And I know some people that just don't want to play ladder. And then some people feel like they're at a disadvantage because they're playing infinite ladder opposed to pre-infinite ladder. They're not getting any bots in their opinion. So it's just going to be really interesting to see what all counts and how this all works, you know?
Yeah, I know people were also like trying to wait until the pretty much the last minute before they really started playing stuff. They locked leagues for I think the last time they did, they locked leagues the last few hours. I'm probably just gonna start playing a day late. I'm gonna hope that works. Get rid of everyone else who's gonna be playing consistently. I'll play some Pokemon Pocket. I'll play some Clash Royale. I'll play some TCG Shop Simulator instead, and wait for 24 hours, and then hopefully find a group of people who are a lot lower in terms of how much they actually want to play the game, so I can still get the exclusive stuff. That's honestly my plan, and it sucks that there's a way that you have to game this, but otherwise it just feels like a chore.
If that's how it works, though, I mean, that might be what to do. Like, you just play Conquest if Conquest doesn't count, and then jump into your weekend league a little bit later. I like that idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But in general, League exclusives, if they aren't forever exclusive, you've got the collector's vault. If stuff's going to work with that, I'm going to be a lot more okay with it. In general, I still don't like leagues themselves, but I think the exclusivity around this, there's an asterisk because hopefully it'll be inside of that collector's shop or vault in like a year. And that's fine. That removes that really bit of like the gateway from the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Makes it feel nicer for new players.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to look at it. And then, Dance, do you have any closing remarks for the Yap for today?
I've been yapping more today than normal, I think, because I've had a lot of stuff I've been sitting on. So I think I'm good. Other than the fact that y'all should be subscribed to twitch.tv/Tucker, youtube.com/@Tucker, and follow him over on Twitter. He's a really great guy. Does a lot of really fun stuff, posting fun videos and a lot of really fun streams as well. So y'all should be going over there and dropping follows, because it also just helps out here, because he uploads these on Tucker on his channel, or listen to them as well if you're listening onto the audio versions. We'd love it if you follow there and let us know, give us a rating on those platforms. It helps out a lot. We're trying to figure all this stuff out. It's fun.
But before you follow on any of those platforms, besides the Spotify and the Apple podcast, you guys need to be following there first. But definitely make sure you are following notmydance, same exact on all platforms, NOTMYDANCE on Twitter, on Twitch. He's going to be doing some more YouTube and TikTok things. He told me behind the scenes. Don't worry. He's making a face right now, but he actually did. But definitely follow notmydance on Twitch and on Twitter for sure. You can stay up to date with his content as well. And we want to say thank you guys so much for all the support. Like, it's been crazy. We just keep getting better and better feedback. So continue with all the positive and any negative feedback, because we do want to, take all aspects into consideration so we can just continue to improve as this goes along. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Until the next time, you guys have a good one, and laters.